Hello and welcome back to Tony Doc Station. So this video I'm going to be going through my control panel, and as you can see I've got some prints made up here. I've used my original track plan software and I've made up control panel boards. These are printed on 1mm Foamex, so they're going to be then mounted onto 6mm MDF, which will be treated and sealed. But this is my main two control panels. So as you can see, the red dots will be the switches and the yellow dots are going to be the LEDs. Now I'm going to try and wire these LEDs in a way that I've seen, which I'll talk through when I actually get around to building it. But these have been measured out to be exactly the size I need so I can drill through. And this material is called Foamex, and it's designed to be drilled through as opposed to printing and laminating, which I've seen people have been struggling with and having to get like hole punches and stuff. But this is apparently very drillable. I did get this in a 5mm as well, but it's not as rigid as I thought it might have been, so I got the 1mm with the intention of then sticking that to the wood. So this panel will sit sort of somewhere like that for this area here, with the control for the sides there as well. And then the other panel will sit sort of over there like that and control that area there. So that's those, and these cost me to get printed about £2 each plus delivery. I got it done from a local printers, well, localish, based in Essex, and they were very, very helpful, and they dispatched this to me yesterday at 6 PM and it arrived today in the post about 11 AM. And I think I can't remember how much the delivery was, but it wasn't that expensive, so I got these relatively cheap, and I think they're going to be great. But we'll see how the rest of the build goes. One other thing that I bought this month is this DCC track tester, which for £5 I picked up from a local model shop. I'm sure you can probably get it cheaper elsewhere, but this is just absolutely brilliant. It's a tiny little piece of kit, but it is absolutely brilliant, especially where I've been having those troublesome areas of my track, to just test the continuity. So, for example, excuse the squeaky floorboards. It was this track here where I had the 423 that kept stalling. So just by simply putting this on, it glows orange to show it's DCC. So if you look at this here, try and focus. If it's orange, it will show DCC, and if it's DC, it will go red or green depending on which way the polarity is around. So it doesn't matter for DCC. So if I pop this on there, it goes orange, and if I just drag it over, I know that area there, it does there where I literally pulled it off. But if I pull it over, I don't, it says, you do have to get it pretty much lined on with those lines there. But I get solid all the way across, so I know that this piece of track has got good solid DCC. It doesn't help that I'm doing this one-handed all the way along, and you can just go around and test all these troublesome areas that you're having, and just test your DCC and your connections and isolate bits of track. And also it's brilliant for testing your frog polarity. So this is going straight over, so if I put it on the straight over track, I can see that my frogs are working. So it's a brilliant way of testing your frogs as well. So I know that that frog is working. And again, this one is currently set to straight over. Again, that is also working. If I put it across there, it actually creates a short circuit, because that's the other rail, so I'll be, I'd have to flick the point. But you can go around and test all your frog points as well. So for a £5, absolutely brilliant bit of kit, and I just couldn't recommend it enough, especially if you are making track alterations or having troublesome areas. Just a brilliant piece of kit. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I've got a sheet of 6mm MDF I just picked up from B&Q. This was just a small size, I think it was like £3, and that's why I went for MDF. And I've just marked out, just crudely with the pencil there, I'm just doing this one-handed, where these go, just to make the most of the cut of the wood there. And then I'll cut those out, so then I'll be left with 6mm, and then those will be mounted and glued and screwed through. But what I'm going to do to the wood is use this sealer, PVA adhesive and sealer, designed for this sort of thing. So then I'll cut the pieces out and seal them all completely and let that dry. And then you have to excuse the motorbike in the background. I've got these little offcuts which I managed to pick up. I think they're 12mm. I managed to pick up all those offcuts for £1. So the wood is going to cost me about £4, and then with a couple of accessories, I think this whole panel for both of them, including the prints, it's going to cost me about £10 to £12 for everything. So then what I'm going to do is, once I've got these panels cut out and mounted, I'll create sort of just the basic sort of square structure, and then one across the front and one down the side, and I'm going to leave the back empty, and I'm going to cut an angle down there so that when it mounts onto the board there, it will be sort of at an angle coming down to the panels, sort of sloped down. And then obviously I'll leave the back without frames, so it'll be like a U shape, so that then I can drill a hole to let all the cabling come through to under the panel, and the front will just sort of keep that neat and tidy as well. It might be a bit thick, but it just gives rooms for cabling and hiding it and stuff like that, and same with this. So what I'm going to do is cut the pieces I need, and obviously as you can see these are already cut to length, and they did all the cutting for me for £1 and everything as well, so I was really lucky with that. Screw it all together, seal it up, and then just to give it a bit more strength, I've got sort of like these corner joints, so I sort of go in the corners to brace like there and there, and then again underneath, so you have like that and then like that, just to give it a bit more strength. And then of course when that mounts to there, we'll put a few of those in there just to give it a bit of strength. So that's the plan, and I'll see you at the next stage. Okay, so I've cut the various bits of wood as I need them. So what will happen is that will sort of go on there like that. It's not going to lights that up, and that will go on there like that, just roughly. Please balance. And then the panel will sit like that there, over that, and then the angle will mean that when it's mounted it will be sort of at an angle. So then what I've done is just marked some where I need to drill some pilot holes for the screws, and then I'll screw that through, get a bit of wood glue and fix that into one unit. Okay, so here we have 2 wooden frames finished. So as you can see, this is going to be the control panel surface, and then we've got sort of like a base on there and the sides. So this is 6mm MDF with 12mm MDF for the frame, and then for the screws to hold the plate on, I've just used 3.5 by 12, just to obviously you don't want them too long to split the wood. The main frame is held together. I see I have to put those two a bit closer because again you don't want to split the wood. It's held together with 4 by 30mm screws, and they just sort of go in there. And as you can see, that's also wood glued as well. So it's quite a simple little frame. And then if I just put that down there, the panel, I haven't attached it yet because I want to wait for the glue to dry, but that will sort of sit on there like that. And then I'll once it's all dried, take the screws out and drill them through from the top. There's only 1mm, it's not going to make a lot of difference. And then that'll be on there like that. And then that will mount like that. 45-degree angle. I'm just holding this with my fingers at the moment, so it's not flush, but it'll be a nice 45-degree angle there. And then the same, put that down. And the bigger one, obviously that will go on the top there, and that's 45 degrees at the end there, and that'll sort of sit just where the soldering iron is, but on the front there. So the next thing to do is, now that's all built, is grab some sealer, and while the rest of the glue's drying, I can just literally cover this all in sealer. I'll have to take all this stuff off, and then let that dry, and then I'll be able to stick the panels on top of that, re-screw it down, and then start drilling through the holes. But yeah, so it's quite simple so far, but for a couple of quid, I'm quite happy with those. Quite basic, but nice and strong, and you know, we'll seal them up and then we'll see how it looks afterwards. Okay, so I've given these a good liberal coating of sealer. See that one I've done first, it's already starting to dry off. So I'm going to leave these for 24 hours and let them fully cure and go off and seal, and then I will be back. So 24 hours for me, a few minutes for you. Okay, so I've changed the most inside track to 3rd radius as well, and I'm more than happy with the clearances on that. I've got plenty of room, and it obviously runs a lot smoother, so I've just straightened out that track there. As you can see, it bent round to where the 2nd radius was before, and you can see the 2nd radius came out a little bit more. But I'm actually quite glad I've done that. So I'm gonna change the other side there as well, and I've bought some new Pico set track 3rd radius for that most inside line, which is there, and that's all running quite nicely. So I'm gonna change the other one now. Okay, so as you can see, I've just finished replacing the most inner track, which was 2nd radius, to 3rd radius, and it came a little bit closer than I thought it would, but I've measured it with the Pico track spacer, and that does appear to all be fine. As you might be able to hear, I've got a freight liner coming round just to test the clearance on this as well. And that's just about to come round the corner, and we shall see in the moment of truth. So definitely it was worth replacing that curve to a 3rd radius. That one wasn't giving me any issues. I think it's a much easier curve, so if I do want to run anything on it in the future I can. So that, for the sake of half hour, for 45 minutes say for both sides, that side and that side, is definitely worth doing. I think that's going to prevent me having any problems in the future. The curve on the incline is still 2nd radius on both sides, and I'm probably going to leave that because, as I've glued this track down now and I'm not having any problems with it, and I think if I pull this up I'm just going to damage the cork, but maybe that's the wrong thing to do, but that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep this 2nd radius, as it's not caused me any problems so far. So yeah, I'm happy with replacing these two, which are the main running tracks anyway. So they're all going to run nice and easily. The one other thing I've done is I've just extended these sort of sidings here, or the ends of these lines, for the freight area, just because to give me a bit more room, and when I put the buffer stops on as well, just so I've got a bit more room. Obviously just got to fill the sleepers in there, and obviously I mentioned before that I wasn't happy with these 2 lanes here, so I've sorted those out, extended them a bit, so for train is going around the other one, there's more room to do it for a loco, so much more happy with that as well. So track wise, I think I'm getting there now. The 2nd radius curves have been swapped out, these extensions have been done, Those buffer stops are only the temporary ones. I've got the proper Pico ones to build and put on. But the actual track is getting to a good point now. So that is all now pretty much done. I'm going to do some final testing, just running some locos and see what other problems I may have unravelled, but other than that, I think track might be done. Okay, so just wanted to run through my control panels again, because I think when I got them I was a bit excited and didn't make much sense, but these are 1mm Foamex. As you can see, they're quite thin and it's sort of like a laminated surface where it's all printed on. I made these up in Photoshop, but you can use it. I didn't need that specifically, it's just what I had. You can use pretty much any photo editing software. I just took very high detailed resolution snapshots of my track from my original track plan, and then sort of just cut them into where I want. So for example, this area here is the station area, and then these points here are those points there, and these points here is that point work there. So this panel will control basically a U-shape area. And this control panel, which will be on the other side, again just 1mm Foamex, is that area over there, and that will be mounted sort of like that. So I can control basically the freight area whilst being in the freight area. So for example, I don't want to be standing over there doing like, you know, slow speed shunting and having to come over here to control the switch panel, because I could have easily put it in there, but I just thought that over there makes much more sense, so I can have the controller and be where the switches are for that area. And then I obviously control that point from the main line down to there. So if I'm running the main line, I just sort of make sure that that point is set to there, and then I haven't got to worry about it at all, and I can just focus on this shunting freight dock area. So that's why I've done it like that. And I did get in there as well a 5mm thick one, because I thought it might be rigid enough just to use on its own, but I also then decided to settle to use the 1mm version, so that the wood will hold the frame together, and then this will be basically glued and screwed on top of the wood, so the actual frame that this will be a lot stronger rather than just the U shape with Foamex being the holding structure. So these have now been sealed with the cedar that I showed you. I don't know if you can actually see, but it's, yeah, you've got the brush strokes there from the cedar. So these are ready to be used. So again, as you can see, all I've done is just used 12mm thick MDF, sealed that up, and then I've used 6mm MDF for the top there as well. So what will happen, so excuse me using one hand, is on the top part, that will be on there, and then that will be why I put it at a 45-degree angle there, so that when it sits on the control panel, this one obviously on the other side, it will sit nice and flush like that. So I've got a good angle on that, and the bigger one will obviously be on this side. So yeah, I'm quite happy with that. And then, as I say, I'll just pop this down quickly. This will be the one that goes on here. And then sit like that. Again, at a nice angle there. I will, when I get it on, I'll get a wider angle, but I can't hold it with one hand and the camera, unfortunately. Then, as I mentioned before as well, I'm pretty sure I did, I'm going to be using these to sort of screw it and mount it on. So these will go into the MDF on here. I'll probably use my 4x30 to screw this into the actual board, so it's got quite a good hold on that, because these are obviously quite short, but they're just so that they go into the MDF and don't split it. Whereas if the screw comes out the other side on the back here, it doesn't matter. I'll be much more comfortable with a chunkier screw for that. And then that will go on there. So these are obviously 45 degrees. So just put the screws down a second. They will mount on there, and then so one side like that, and then one side's coming out, and then obviously this will be where the baseboard is on there. And then if I've got some left over as well, once I've mounted them, I might, you know, just strengthen these corners and that to hold it all in place. But relatively pleased with it. Well, actually more than relatively, very pleased with these. They are all sealed and they come out really well, and literally I think, as I mentioned in the last clip as well, these were very cheap to make. Both of these, I think the wood was less than £5, and I've got quite a bit left over. Just, it was the best way to buy it. So yeah, I'm gonna crack on with the next bit. Okay, so there is the print to the woodwork. So that will be, says as he drops it, be mounted like that, and that'll be my control panel. What I've got to do now is drill through the red and the yellow bits. The reds are 6 for the switches, and the LEDs are 5, which is the yellow bit. So I'm going to do that bit now. The LEDs and the switch holes all drilled through. The only thing I've found is that these ones at the bottom, I didn't take into account the 12mm thickness there, so these are going to have to be pushed up. There's nothing I can do about that. And to the other side, all the holes drilled, as you can see what I mean. Yeah, just switches are not going to go in there, but those are all drilled nicely. I will say, as you can see, the MDF probably isn't the best wood of choice for this, but it's worked. But I think I'd recommend using ply for anyone who's going to sort of do this. Just a bit more solid wood. The MDF is a little bit, especially where some of these are a bit close together. Yeah, definitely recommend ply. But if you can only do MDF, it works. I've got these all through, so I'm going to do the next one. And I'll probably leave that video here for now, in terms of the construction of it, and then the next video will be the wiring and the bits after this, basically. So thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Cheers. Bye.